Good evening, people. Welcome back to Where the Owls Sleep. It's another Sunday session. You've got me and Stocky this week. This will be the normal format. Unless one of us isn't around, we'll get a guest in. How's it going, Stocks? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I've watched football all day.
Oh, nice. Decent stuff, mate. Decent stuff. I've watched a bit today. I haven't watched loads, to be honest. I've been potting around doing other bits. So,
I was lucky. I watched Hibernian Rangers 3-3
yeah.
in the two Prem games that were 2-2.
Yeah, some decent games as well, to be fair. Actually, after the first half of Man United Liverpool, I watched quite a bit of them. It was getting a bit bland.
Yeah,
But the second half certainly came to life.
it did.
Right, to be fair, talking about the games, we might as well have a quick catch up while we're on it.
Mm.
While we're on it, we did our predictions the other day, which I have actually got here. I can't even remember what we said, but we had Newcastle Spurs, which was the early game Saturday. Out of the three of us, Samir got it bang on 2-1 Newcastle.
Mm.
You had it 3-2 Newcastle. We all had Newcastle win. I had it 5-2. But how did you think the game went?
Well, from what I heard, Tottenham were really unlucky. I just can't believe that they didn't win the game. And if everything was even,
Yeah, mate.
they would have had the win.
It's bonkers. The amount of times he said if everything was equal and even and fair, it would be like, well, if everything's equal and even, it's a draw, surely not.
I did find it funny that he was going ballistic at the officiating and making very veiled comments at the referees and the assistants. But last season, when he was in the 10 games, he's like, "Oh, I was brought up to respect the referees, mate,"
Yeah,
and all of that. And now the pressure's on. They they cheat. Speaking of that, I don't know if you saw it earlier on, complaining about referees. Harry Wilson got a penalty for Fulham, didn't he?
yeah.
And the ref didn't give it, first of all, because he just couldn't see. Harry Wilson ran up to his face and said, "You're a cheat," and he didn't get booked for it. He actually goes up to right to his face and says, "You're a cheat," and he didn't even get booked.
Oh, okay. I definitely hadn't seen that. So he definitely massively got away with one there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pen, and the ref, after looking at the screen, but yeah, it's funny. I think of all the things they cracked down on, and I'm sure we'll talk about decisions at some point. Man, they really need to stop all this digging out referees. It's not good.
Yeah, no, it's not good, and it does sort of filter down as well. And players think they can get away with it at lower levels, and you just don't. So it gets people in trouble. What other games did we predict? We also predicted Chelsea and Palace on Saturday, which ended 1-1.
Yeah.
Did you manage to watch any of that at all? Neither of us got that bang on. Me and Samir both had draws, but they were 2-2s. You had a 2-1 Chelsea.
Yeah, do you know what? I watched the match of the day highlights, and Chelsea should have been miles away in the first half. Like, they had a hell of a lot of chances that they did not take.
Yeah.
And then they got punished at the end. I mean, people say it's cliche, but generally it's a cliche because it's true. If you don't take your chances, you don't get results.
Exactly, yeah. And against a lot of the teams in the Prem, if you don't take your chances, they're going to create one that they take. So you need to be sort of too clear by the time that could potentially happen. So yeah, they've definitely shot themselves in the foot there. Our final prediction game was actually the Liverpool Man United game, which none of us got right, even the result. Weirdly enough, I do a prediction app thing, and I got it right on there, but I didn't predict it the same on the pod. So that shows how consistent it can be sometimes.
You got football wisdom swings, mate.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why I put 2-2 on the prediction app, but I did, and
You sure it wasn't a mistype?
might have been. To be fair, either way, it's won me the week, so I'm happy about that.
I was going to say, yeah, a bit of a mad game, and Trent had a bit of a mare and got dug out on national television for it.
Yeah. Well, he'll be off soon anyway. He'll be away from it all. He'll be out in Spain.
Always said, good footballer, bad defender.
Yeah, totally agree on that one. Right, everybody, we've got a little bit of a unique one this evening. Rather than talking about the Premier League as it is now, we're going to go back to the 90s, and we are going to put together a best 11 from the Premier League of the 90s era. There's a few dubious shouts that have been thrown in the late 90s that were only a few years, but every single one of these players did play in the Premier League in the 90s. And we're going to go back to front. So starting with GKs, the big goalkeepers. We've got 6 here on the board. If anybody can't see the pictures or you're just listening, we've got Nigel Martin, David James, Neville Southall, Tim Flowers, Peter Schmeichel, and David Seaman. What are your initial thoughts on that little selection there, Stocks?
I mean, to start with, my initial thoughts on this week's subject was amazing. I could talk about it for 24 hours straight.
We could put a tournament together of 11s from this era.
So excited when you said about this. I mean, I love a show where I haven't got to do any reading.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Or do any check it, and I was just reading players off, and I've had to cut back on some. You know that tweet, like, I don't understand why men can just sit in a room and have the best time of their lives just saying footballers that they haven't seen for like 30 years. And I'm like, yes, this is it.
That is it. This is it. This is today's episode. We've been talking about it for a little while, doing slightly different ones of sort of old football and boots and games, but this is what we're starting with.
The goalkeeper one's hard because there's two for most of this team. For most of this 90s team, it's going to be between Man United and Arsenal because they were Seaman, or for the goalkeepers at least, Seaman and Schmeichel were the two outstanding candidates, both in this country on a European level, probably getting as far, maybe not a world level for Seaman, but my favourite one, and I'm not saying he's the best, but my favourite's Big Nev.
Big Nev, yeah, he's the one that a lot of people forget about, and they forget how good he was because he went on for so long and got massive by the end and could barely move. They forget how really good he was when he was actually in decent shape to play as a goalkeeper.
And like, I don't know when he started. Was he the late 70s or early 80s? Imagine it was like he very first started playing in the late 70s.
But I'd imagine it would have been 78, 79 would have been when he started.
Yeah, but like when he got to the 90s, he was sort of, as a kid, everyone was like, oh, yeah, Neville Southall's amazing. I'm like, well, he's not like Schmeichel and Seaman good. But
no, not quite on that level, but he was an exceptional goalkeeper.
Yeah. Like proper amazing saves. You know what? He's like the big geezers used to play with, like on Sunday mornings and some Saturday football. You're like, cool, how's he doing that at his size? Also, I'd say I feel sorry for Nigel Martin and Tim Flowers in this era.
You kind of did sort of hear around that international level, didn't you? Because they were both good goalies, but they were just stopped from ever really getting that many caps because Seaman was just that good. Same with David James, really. But although he got a few in between, sort of a bit as well.
He got his caps at Aston Villa, then he got all of vast majority of his caps at West Ham, I think.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, I would remember that one. I mean, the best for the 90s, I think a lot about Schmeichel saves. He perfected the rushing out. He liked the rushing out at pace and like sliding, like making himself big, and the old sort of starfish saves.
Yeah. Which people still go on about now when you see someone do it. And the people will then revert back to Schmeichel being the guy that kind of made it a way to actually be a goalkeeper. It became a thing after Schmeichel really started doing it.
He saved a few more of his feet as well than keepers at the time.
Yeah, I remember him listening to an interview with him. It wasn't actually that long ago that I listened to it. And he was just saying that if it came into him and he wasn't really sure of how to save it, he just thought, right, let's get a big instep on it and get it about 40 yards away from goal. Doesn't matter if it was rolling to him, if it was a shot, he was just like, just get your instep on it and get it as far away from the goal as possible.
I mean, Seaman was no slouch either.
Oh no, not at all. I remember there was a save in the FA Cup, which might have not even been in the 90s from Pesca Solidou.
Yeah,
And
that
it looked
was
like it was well
2000.
past him when he clawed it back out.
Yeah, that was deep into his ponytail years. Yeah. Also,
So if you
how
had to,
fantastic were keeper kits back then?
oh yeah, there's
Looking at them.
the creativity of the keeper kits were a bit special. If I had a bit more time, I would have seen if I could find a wild one for every goalie, but I was a little bit strapped trying to get all the pictures together. But still a decent collection, to be fair. JMO's one's
Yeah.
a bit special there.
Watford.
Yeah, again, when I was looking at the pictures, I was trying to find it as rogue as humanly possible. So, if you had to pick one of these keepers, I think this one's probably going to be slightly easier than some of the other positions. But if you had to pick one, who are you going for?
It's going to be the Great Dane.
Yeah, it's got to be really, isn't it? He sort of changed the way people looked at goalkeepers when it came to some of the saves he made, and wasn't just successful at Premier League level. He was successful with his country as well, and
Mm.
yeah, so across the board, club and country had success. So that's a bit of a slam dunk. Then I would have gone for Schmeichel as well. So we might as well move on. Let's go. What's next lined up? Let's go right backs. So we've got a slightly different selection here. We've got Lee Dixon, who was part of that 1-0 to the Arsenal back four that went on for so long. Dan Petrescu of Chelsea, Romania, who was probably one of the first right backs that was more of a ball player when
Mm.
all right backs seem to be these days, but he was one of the first. And then you've got Gary Neville and Paul Pitts, isn't it?
Paul Parker.
Paul Parker, that's the one. So I've typed his name as Paul Parker as well, and I keep saying it for some reason. But again, this one's actually a lot harder. If you're talking about longevity, it's easy. But if you're talking about prime for prime, who would you have as the best right back to put into this team? It does become a lot deeper discussion
Yeah.
because as long as Gary Neville went on, Parker was exceptional. He was an exceptional right back. Maybe not as good as going forward as Neville, but a lot more solid defensively. And then Dan Petrescu, as I already said, was one of the first generation of proper ball playing fullbacks.
Mm.
So
I
it's a
think
tough
it is tough, and I think it's more interesting because sort of Dan Petrescu was like, when I was a kid, he felt like one of the first proper foreign players at
one. Oh
Chelsea at that time as well.
yeah. Hmm.
It was like, "Ooh, this is exciting." Like, I always seem to. I don't know if he scored it. He got a couple of goals as well from right back, didn't he?
Yeah,
Like
he
a
did.
couple of
He did get
tasty
a
ones.
few. Yeah, he did get a few. Let me see if I can quickly pull it up while you're having your little bit about these guys.
Uh, and obviously Dixon. I don't know. I think he's a bit underrated for how good he was these days. People just seem to rate him on his punditry, which I actually quite like. But he was part of the best back four for so long.
Yeah, for
Well,
a big chunk of his career,
yeah.
he was part of that solid back four.
And that back four will kind of go down historically, won't it?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Even now, Arsenal fans are singing the song again now when they're winning 1-0. And
Oh, they'd sing
it was
anything
literally a
because
thing that it was most weeks they did it.
yeah, they just want to be. They just need an excuse to do anything now. I mean, I suppose Neville is a good tandem with Beckham in front. I think that's what really made him as a right back because they worked perfectly together.
Yeah.
But Paul Parker was distinguished, like QPR there, went to Man United. Excellent England career. Do you know who I just thought of?
Who's
But
this?
was proper injury prone. Rob Jones.
Rob Jones. Oh yeah, it's
Because I
another
was thinking of
interesting.
all of a sudden I just started thinking about English right backs.
Mm. I had a few other names in mind, but I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go too Newcastle heavy. I was looking at the
You was
team
going to go
United.
Warren Barton, weren't you?
Yeah, we had Warren Barton, Steve Howie played out there quite a lot
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
I can't remember who was the right back from the Blackburn team that won the league. No, ignore that because I can't remember who it is. But I looked into that team as well and
Jeff
was
Kenner.
huh?
Jeff Kenner.
That's the one. And I was going to chuck him in as well, but I couldn't really see an argument for putting any of them names sort of near these four, to be honest.
Mm. I'll say if we're doing a fullback for the 90s, only one of these players played for the entirety of the 90s,
Oh yeah, yeah, that's fair.
and that'd be Lee Dixon.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And he was probably in one of the. He probably had the longest period in one of the most solid back fours going through the
Mm.
nineties out of these four as well.
And also, I don't want it to be full up with totally Man United players because they were quite strong in the 90s. So I think we need to share it out a little bit.
No, that's fair enough. I wasn't going to go Neville anyway, but
Who was you going to go for? Parker?
I probably would have gone Parker. Yeah, I would have gone Parker. But then he ended up at Man United anyway, so we'll
Yeah,
we'll stick with Dixon. We'll stick with Dixon as the shout. And
that was surprisingly tough. And I didn't initially put him on my list because I thought it'd be too obvious. But having thought about it, I was like, yeah, good chat.
yeah, I didn't think we could really have the list without him. That's why I chucked him in.
Mm.
Yeah, so on to the other side of the pitch, and we have actually got quite a selection of players for this. Well, we've only got one more player, but there's a few more teams involved. So left backs. For those that can't see, we have Graham Lasso, Julian Dix of Stockies West Ham, Nigel Winterburn, the other side of that Arsenal back four, Dennis Irwin, and then Stuart Pearce, who probably could have been looked at as a centre back as well for times, but he did play left back quite a lot. And there's a long list of centre backs. I think we've got 10 on the list of centre backs to pick from. I shifted him out to left back for this.
Yeah, good call. First of all, I'd just say Dix ain't gonna be my left back, but I at least have to have one West Ham player in the conversation. That's
Oh
all
yeah,
I want.
we had to throw. Even if you didn't put him in there, I would have put him in there. He's one of them cult hero left backs that he just had to be in the conversation. He probably wasn't. He was a little bit Vinnie Jones esque as a player. He had a big name, but he wasn't massively talented. But he took a great penalty as well, and he was a character. So he had to be thrown in the list just for the discussion point.
Do you know what? Out of these left backs, I would actually say he's got the best left foot.
Oh yeah, pure
He's a
striking ability of the
yeah,
ball. Yeah, 100%.
very cultured left foot. Was like a really good player, but you know he had the red mist.
Yeah, he
But
had the bit of nutcase about him.
yeah, which kind of only endeared him more to West Ham fans. You wouldn't fancy playing against him though. Out of like, could you imagine him and Pierce going in for a 50-50? It'd be ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it would have been like the Schmeichel and Wright
Oh, with
and
the ball pop.
the ball popping.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know who's I think underrated in this list, and that's Dennis Irwin.
To be fair, jumping a little bit ahead, he would probably be my pick. I know a lot of people who watch football now are like obviously the older generation will know Dennis Irwin, but if you only really started watching mid 90s, you would have either seen old Dennis Irwin or not much of him at all.
Mm.
But he was fantastic. Like you say, Dix was probably had the best left foot for striking ability.
Mm.
Dennis Irwin, he played both sides as well, and he
Mm-hmm.
took free kicks like to an exceptional level. It got to the point that if Man United got a free kick sort of between 20 and 25 yards, you're thinking you're going to concede because he was that good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we was talking about Dix and Pierce being hard. Owen didn't take no prisoners.
No, no.
He was like, obviously the 80s was a lot tougher time for football, and the 90s it started being a little bit more gentrified, a little bit more protected of the players and everything. But he was stiff.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if it was Ferguson or it might have actually been Keane rather than Ferguson, who turned around and said he's probably the pound for pound the best buy ever in the Premier League because they
Yeah.
signed it for like something thousand. It was K. It was something like 80K or something silly like that, and
Mm,
it would be one of the best left backs we've seen.
mm. I mean, Winterburn went on to play for West Ham as well, and he was good. Lasso, I don't know. I could never decide whether he was more of a left midfielder or a left back. He was a title winner at Blackburn and went on to Chelsea, so it is quite tough.
It's a very tough choice, to be fair, when you actually look at their individual abilities. I think, obviously, we've taken Dix out. I'd probably take Winterburn out, but between the other three, if you're weighing up between defensive ability and how good they could have been going forward, because Lasso is a good fullback going forward as well. He scored some decent goals for England as well as for the clubs he played for.
Mm,
Uh, it's a tough one. I'd go Dennis Irwin.
yeah, yeah, I can suffer that. I'm very close to Piercy, but if I had Dixon, then definitely I'm all right with Irwin.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. We'll go Dennis Irwin. Right, let's do a little review and get everything in. While I'm doing that, let's have a little look at the centre backs. So the pictures are a lot smaller, a little bit smaller here, a little bit more blurred, but there's 10 of them. We have got Tony Adams, Hugo Ekiuk, Steve Bruce, Philip Albert, Marcel Desailly, Sol Campbell. Uh, this his name's Paul Pot.
That's
Completely
Des
lost.
Walker.
Des Walker. So I completely lost my train of thought. For some reason, there's a name called Parker on the list of pictures, and there's not no Parker in the picture. Then you've got Yapstam, Colin Hendry, and Gary Pallister. So this is quite the list, but this is for both centre back positions. We've got a whole range of different types of centre back, from your not have any of it, just kick it long, head everything types. You've got a couple of more cultured centre backs in there. I think this is going to be one of the toughest ones to narrow down, to be honest with you, mate. But what are your initial thoughts?
Um, Jeez, centre halves looked a lot tougher back then, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like all of them look odd, didn't they?
Yeah, you see, you already know just looking at them that you're going to have a hard afternoon. If you didn't know who they were and you turned up on a Sunday morning, you'd be like, "Oh, this is going to be terrible today."
Mm, yeah. Desai's a good shout. He must have just been scraping the 90s.
He came in the night. He came to Chelsea in '98, and he was probably at the time looked at one of the world's best centre backs, which is why I thought he kind of had to be in with a shout because he was that good. He probably wasn't at Chelsea for his best years, but
Mm,
overall career wise, it was worth chucking him
mm,
in for the conversation. Colin Hendry had to go in as Premier League winning centre back. To be fair,
mm.
I dabbled with the idea of Henningberg as a rogue one because he also went to Man United,
Oh.
but he was never the main man of any of the centre backs of where he went. So I went with Hendry instead.
Mm. Do you know what? I really like Des Walker, but he might be more of like a 90s. I mean, 90s, 80s, like late 80s
Yeah.
in his peak.
But on Des Walker, he's probably one of this list that would actually be more suited to today's
Modern
game
day football, yeah.
than he
He
was
was,
to the era that he played in.
he was rapid.
Yeah. And he was quite cultured. Weirdly enough, he looks a lot like Curtis Davis in that picture.
He really does, doesn't he? um, to be fair, old Philippe was pretty cultured.
Oh yeah, fantastic, fantastic. He's one of my favourite Newcastle players ever, and has also scored one of the goals that gets replayed over and over and over again, the fifth and the 5-0.
Mm,
So I just had to chuck him in there for that reason. As a centre back, I wouldn't select him as one of the two, but he brings some decent discussion points and was potentially one of the first of the Premier League to come over and be more of a ball playing centre back, one that would drive out with the ball and join in attacks and stuff like. Because there wasn't many of them about.
no, no, there certainly wasn't. I mean, that suits a Keki team perfectly, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Um,
When your centre back can dink the goalie we've just put in the team to make it 5-0, you know
mhm,
that it's a Kevin Keegan type of player.
yeah. I mean, Yap Stam was like when he come over, he felt like a bit like a cheat code
Yeah,
because what he was 6+, he was nearly as wide as he was tall, and he was quick,
he was quick. Yeah,
like deceptively quick.
yeah. But he's another one like Desai that was very end of the 90s. I think he might
Mm,
have been. I think it might have been the same summer.
mm, yeah, he weren't there long. He had a fallout, didn't he?
Yeah.
Mm,
Right. I'm not sure how we're going to narrow this down. In my head, I've got two that I would probably go for. Uh, to be fair, we haven't touched on Ugo Ekiog yet, and it feels like doing him a little bit of a disservice because I looked at that Villa team; it was a fantastic side, and I thought I've got to put one of them in. It was either him or Southgate. If Southgate hadn't managed England, it probably would have been Southgate, but he's taken my view of him a bit, so I went with Ugo and kept him in because he was your selection as well. But
yeah, yeah,
again, he was a fantastic player,
yeah.
fantastic player.
Um, he seemed a bit. He was a bit different for me at the time because he was so athletic. Like he wasn't like a youngster. You know, like when young players come in the team, they all seem quick.
Yeah,
But even when he'd been playing a few years, I was like, why is he? Why is he bigger and quicker than everyone? He just didn't seem cool when I was a kid. And then like and he went on to Middlesbrough and played for ages. Yeah, I really liked him.
yeah.
Was it pro where you had the odd player that was bigger than the rest? You know, like when you had like Jan Collar
Oh
in
yeah,
pro,
yeah, yeah.
it felt like Hugo Ekiog was that watching Match of the Day.
He was like a big kid in the playground, wasn't he?
Yeah,
It was like when one of the year tens goes and plays with the year eights and just dominates.
yeah. Oh, he was so good.
Yeah, fantastic player. But
Oh.
let's see if we come up with the same or different. If you had to pick one, who would it be?
Hmm, I would actually go for. It's tough. I'd say Tony Adams. Actually,
Oh, okay. Interesting.
he was
Interesting.
he was a chief at a back four with just
Yeah.
wax lyrical about. It was very close between with Bruce and Pallister as well.
Yeah, I couldn't pick between them because they were paired up quite a lot.
Mm,
And they were a fantastic pairing. So I couldn't really pick between which one to go. So I just thought chuck them both in, why not?
hmm
But I would probably pick Sol Campbell personally because he had a bit of everything. He was a monster. He was an absolute monster. And for people who haven't heard this story, I played against him once, and it it made me realise the difference in athleticism and physical ability between thinking you're quick and thinking you're quite strong to actually being rapid and being strong across a football pitch. This guy just bullied me for 45 minutes. Like I went home, my calves were bruised, I could barely walk. And even the time that I sold him one, dropped short and span him behind and got a couple of yards, and I was rapid. I was way, and he still caught me up and bullied me off the ball. And I will never forget how much that brought me down to earth that day. He was just a monster. But aside from that, he was also a ridiculously good Premier League centre back. Uh, Played for both Tottenham and Arsenal, and that's just hilarious. He was rubbish when he finally came to Newcastle, but he was fantastic in his younger years.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that. Didn't he just walk out at half time?
Yeah, I think his final game he did just leave at half time.
Do you know what he done? He done that at Arsenal as well. Because
He
we
was
was watching the game at yours. Remember when Bobby Zamora buoyed him off?
oh yeah.
He didn't come back off. He didn't come back on. Sorry, after half time.
It's just bonkers. And then he did the thing where he was like, "Oh, I want to go abroad," so Arsenal let him go, and he ended up signing for, or did he do that to Tottenham and then signed for Portsmouth or something like that? He either did it he either did it to Arsenal and went to Tottenham, or he did it to Tottenham and ended up at Portsmouth.
And then he had that game or so at Notts County.
Yeah, strange career, but fantastic player.
Yeah, I can go with that.
Cool. Let's right. Let me just transition into the centre midfielders. Here we
Also,
go.
we got a right in the lefty at centre back. Handy.
Who was left then?
Sol Campbell was left footed, wasn't he?
Nah, Sol Campbell was a righty.
Was he?
Yeah, I'm positive he was.
Oh,
I'll double check that in a minute, but I'm sure he was.
I always thought he was left footed. Oh well.
Right. So, the list of midfielders we've got here. We've got David Batty, Janino, Gary McAllister, Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, Tim Sherwood, Gary Speed, Patrick Vieira, Rob Lee, and Paul Ince. I thought it'd only be fitting that when we go through the centre midfielders that we have the similar amount as the centre backs. So I've added a few slightly left field ones to the list. Rob Lee's gone in because he's still my favourite ever Newcastle centre midfielder, and he played in a team that was really good. He finished second 2 years on the trot, so I think it was slightly justified. Gary Speed is the other one I'd like to touch on, who was just ridiculous for everybody he played for in the Prem and was the most annoying player to defend corners against on one of the Championship Manager games because he had scored pretty much every single time.
Yeah. I made sure I wanted Speed in as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I love a like an interview with an old footballer sort of thing, and everyone just always said how amazing he was, and he won the title at Leeds, Newcastle, Everton, played at Bolton for a few years when we was well into the noughties.
Yeah.
Just an amazing player and another sweet left footer.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he was hard but fair. Like it just, when it all felt proper football. A little bit. There was, you could have a degree of physicality in your game and not like sprinting and jumping. Like you could be physically strong, like power. And amazing footballer. True to my West Ham roots, fuckins. But he was really good. He was really good. Like, he was a different gear.
Yeah.
Like, when he was at West Ham, to the best of my knowledge, he was like kind of more of a box-to-box. Like, could do a bit of everything. Like, skillful running, shooting. And I think as he went on, he got deeper and deeper.
I think he's one of them ones that, as a midfielder, he's very much underrated.
Oh, mate, same as Rob Lee.
Yeah, because he didn't get very many England caps. He didn't get loads, and he wasn't ever really the main man for England. But they were both of them were fantastic players in the middle of the park there.
Yeah, I don't know. Around '96, him and Gaza, that's like perfect.
Oh yeah,
perfect centre midfield. And obviously Gaza would have been in this, but in the '90s he was like Lazio, Rangers.
I think he was the reverse of some of the others we've said, where he had maybe a season or two seasons. No, actually, he moved in '92, so he never actually played early Prem. I think he actually came back to the Prem in the noughties. So I don't think he actually played '90s Prem, which is why he didn't get a look. I did Google Gaza before I finished the list and was like, damn it, can't get him in.
I didn't know that. Underrated, Gary McAllister, like the baller's baller.
Oh yeah, Yeah, and I had to find a picture from Coventry to make sure that we wasn't spamming the same clubs over and over again.
Yeah,
Fantastic
definitely.
time at Liverpool and various other clubs. Same with David Batty,
Mm.
really. I think he's another one that went under the radar a bit. He was in the Blackburn team that won the league, played for Leeds when they were really good. He was really good for Newcastle, sort of 98, 99 ish as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Another player. Funny stories that I've heard about him that he literally just used to turn up to training in his kit,
Yeah.
strap his boots on in his car, wander on the pitch, not do a proper warm up, smash 50-yard passes about 3 or 4 times, train, walk back to his car, boots off, in the back, trains on, drive home.
Yeah. He was really good at football, but he didn't like it.
No,
Apparently, all of the people that he played with, no one's in contact with him. I heard another rumor that he doesn't have a bank account. He just used to deal with cash. But
cash
that could
only.
really, yeah. I mean, you want it to be true so much, don't you?
Yeah, that'd be brilliant if that is true.
Um, Tim Sherwood's a bit lucky to be in this company. I feel. I know he won the league as skipper with Blackburn, but I don't
That,
think.
it's literally the only reason he's got in there. He captained
Yeah,
the team to the Premier League. So,
yeah, that wasn't Man United or Arsenal, so that's
yeah,
fair.
he had to go in just for that reason. I couldn't leave him out.
I know you put in Scholes. See, I didn't have Scholes because I always think of him sort of late in the 90s,
Yeah.
2000s as a dominant midfielder. Um, I mean, the one that has to go in there for me is Vieira. Absolutely changed the game when he was at Arsenal.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He is, even if we did a all-time Premier League 11, I'm still insisting that Patrick Vieira plays in centre midfield. I mean, I don't care who I'm sat with. I'm insisting Patrick Vieira goes in. He is the best centre midfielder I have seen in the Premier League ever.
Hmm. Yeah.
He had everything. He had a bit of
Um,
everything. He was big. He was quick. He was a bit of a nasty prick as well. He could score goals. He could defend. He could do everything. It's just so good.
hmm. um, yeah. Um, yeah. Wenger really pulled that one out of the bag, didn't he?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And also away from the Premier League, he went on and won a World Cup and a Euros back to back with France as well. So it just adds on how good he was
Yeah.
as a player.
He won a Scudetto with Juve. Went to Man City at the end, didn't he?
Went to Man City. Didn't he win? Didn't they win an FA Cup with Vieira as well?
I don't know. No, it was back when they were crap. You know, when they had like Thomas Cook on their shirts.
No, but I'm pretty sure. I might be thinking of someone else. I'm sure he went there and scored a pen in the final, and it was his last kick in English football.
Oh, maybe.
I'm sure he
Oh,
scored the winner in the shootout, and it was either his last kick in English football or his last kick in football. Full stop.
oh, fair enough. Oh, that'd be wicked.
I'm positive. I'm gonna have to have a little search, see if I can
Right,
find that because.
right. The,
But
the
go on.
second spot is tough for me because although it was a brief stint, you just want it to be Janino because it was Janino. And it depends whether we're trying to have a really wicked team or just people we liked.
I actually think it still makes a really wicked team though. Patrick Vieira and Janino as a middle two.
Yeah, I'd say I feel sorry for Keane because Vieira has to be in there.
Yeah, if we're going longevity and trophies and everything all across the board and the usual thing that people normally do, you'd go Vieira and Keane because it's
Mm.
it's a bit of everything and they both do a bit of everything. But personally, I'm swaying towards Vieira Janino.
Really, I didn't think you'd say that.
I am massive because Janino's the X factor. Say if we had the only reason I wouldn't have had a Janino in there is if Gascoigne played in the Premier League in the 90s.
Mm.
He brings a similar kind of X factor, but just with a little bit. He's a little bit smaller, a little bit less power, a little bit less pace, but similar levels of talent.
Yeah, I just loved him. He was so interesting, and I remember it being such a big thing, and obviously, I didn't really know much of Middlesbrough when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and they really sort of like they were making big noise, weren't they? Like when Steve Gibson took over, and was the chairman, Brian Robson as manager, Ravanelli, Emerson, Janino.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he loved it there. Like he kept his house. He had a second stint because I think he went to Atletico Madrid, and he came back as well later on, maybe in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He definitely came back for a second stint. But yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely suffer that because, like I say, Skulls. If we was doing a 2000s team, then I'd say Scholesy because he went on for ages, and that's why I think he was most influential at Man United.
yeah.
And although Janino, it was a short stint, I don't know. I just find it glorious.
Yeah, he was a special player. Although they got relegated, they got to two cup finals in the same. Was it the same season? I'm pretty sure they got to two cup finals and relegated all in the same season.
Yeah, I think one of them they got relegated because of a points deduction because they couldn't. They had a flu outbreak and they said they couldn't field a team, and it wasn't agreed with the FA, so they didn't play it. And then they got fined 3 points, I believe.
I actually didn't know that. That's a new bit of knowledge for me there.
Yeah, like I said, we've hit my niche subject, so
Yeah.
it'd be so funny if someone's watching this and went, "The fucking pricks wrong."
Yeah, we'll see. We'll have to check the comments back and have a little look. Right, so on to the flanks. We're going to go left first. We've got quite a collection here. So I think this one's going to be another tough one because all four of these players are special for different reasons and all. Well, I suppose Giggs sort of crosses across most of the eras, but Barnes was early 90s, still playing late 90s, but wasn't anywhere near as good. Overmars was more late 90s into the 2000s. Giggs played from probably 93, 92, 93, all the way through to probably 2012 or something stupid like that. And then Ginola, who came over and what a player. What a player. Like 14 has been my favourite number ever since he signed for Newcastle. And he was just he was just different gear. Broke my heart when he went to Tottenham, but what a player. Left foot, right foot. He could take a man on. He could cross on both sides. He was just a different breed of player. What are your early thoughts out of these four? Because I'm stumped. I'm completely stumped here. And as harsh as it is, I can kind of rule one out. But the other three, I can't choose between.
I reckon you're ruling Overmars straight out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As much as he was fantastic, he was brilliant. And I'm not putting down Mark Overmars, but for various different reasons, these other three were just like they were different level.
yeah. Like I think when I think of Overmars, you know when I think it might have been the first time they won the title
Mm.
and away at Old Trafford, and he just runs in and he puts that left foot shot sort of under Schmeichel's leg for it to be 2-0. Was it 2-0
Yeah.
or 1-0 at the time? But yeah, I mean, um, he was great, but yeah. Unfortunately, I've kind of uh, Barnes was great, but I'd say I'm stuck between Ginola and Giggsy.
Yeah. I can see that. Barnes was probably ever so slightly before the time I properly started watching football. Like his best period definitely was. And his best period was probably before the Premier League as well, to be perfectly honest.
Definitely,
So
definitely.
for that reason, I could see why you'd rule Barnes out. But he definitely has to be sort of in the list with a mention because
Oh, without that.
he was between him and players like Mickey Thomas and Rocastle. They sort of changed. the way England looked at wingers. Like they just started doing a lot more as wingers, and it wasn't like it sort of evolved English football ever so slightly in the way wing play was looked at and what players should do and how they drive with the ball and stuff like that. So that's kind of why it's kind of got to be in the list. But yeah, I'm happy with it being down to Ginola and Giggs. I feel like I'd be being biased if I didn't put Giggs in, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult not to put him in as much as you want Ginola. Because I looked in this two ways. I'm like, oh, do I run a really good team, or do I just want the players I really liked? Because it's very different for me.
But even then, on these two, I think both fall into both characters. I mean, characters both fall into both categories. But Giggs was a lot more consistent when it came to being really good.
Like, he was unreal. I remember my mate got a pair of Reeboks, just like he's the old Sidewinder Reeboks, because the left foot was weighted like Giggs, because he wanted the left foot weighted. I was like, at the time, I was like, oh, wow, fucking hell.
That must be like the most awkward thing to have on a football boot if it doesn't suit you.
Yeah, exactly. He was right-footed as well.
That makes it even better.
Yeah,
That is absolutely brilliant. That.
yeah, yeah. Ginola was amazing, but I'd probably it's hard not to have Giggs in the team.
It's difficult to overlook Ryan Giggs just for everything, the longevity, the trophies, how good he was consistently throughout his career. His peak was probably slightly better than Janola's and longer. It's just Ginola had them moments. He had so many moments that were just like, wow. And even Giggs had them, like was it the '98 semi-final or whatever it was? Where
that could be one of the maddest. It's an underrated goal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's only second to Trevor Sinclair in FA Cup goals for me.
Oh yeah, Trevor Sinclair's
Oh mate, how have I not got Trevor Sinclair on there? I could have snuck in Tricky Trev on the right.
To be fair, I'm a little bit upset that I haven't thought of that as well now. Now we've said it.
Yeah.
Although I think when we do shuffle over to the right mid, you'll be impressed with one of the additions that I've chucked in.
I'd say for the first time, I think I'm going to criticise your admin, mate. How you've not got Giggsy in the old half green, half yellow shirt.
Oh yeah, it's a good shout. To be fair, do you know what?
With the old tie-ups.
Some of them, when I was getting the images, some of them when you go to save, want to save as some kind of web file that you can't upload.
Oh right.
So I'm blaming that. That's what I'm blaming.
But yeah, I also say for Giggsy, he won all of the titles at Man United in the decade. He won all of the FA Cups. He won the Champions League.
Yeah.
I think he got like Young Player of the Year at least once. I don't know if he got the Player of the Year, the PFA Player of the Year.
He must have done at some point. Absolutely must have done, surely. Although there was a lot of special players about.
I mean, we're going on about how much Giggs won. We've not even got to the strikers yet, which is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, the strikers are definitely going to be the hardest part. We've got one more midfielder to get in, the guy that plays on the right. This does feature one of the players who were on the left as well, which annoys me that I didn't go with Trevor Sinclair. But we've got Mark Overmars again, David Beckham, Steve McManaman, and Raw Fox.
I'm so glad you put in Raw Fox, because I forgot to put him on my list.
I just remember from every single football game I think I've ever played, Raw Fox was class on every single one, whether it was like a FIFA type game that you played yourself, whether it was a management game. Raw Fox was class on pretty much every single one, up to about 97-ish or something like that. So I had to get him in there.
Well, I mean, he played at Norwich like at their peak when they were like in the Champions Cup, weren't he?
Yeah.
He was still so when they won in Munich, he must have been playing.
Yeah,
And then Newcastle in the heyday in the 90s,
yeah. Newcastle.
end of the 90s, he was
Just
at
just before that season when we went close, he was with us then. So yeah,
went to Tottenham, like it'd only been like 10 years since they won something then, so that people used to still talk about him in such spheres. But no, yeah, he was proper jinky and good. Like, how you said wingers were changing in terms of Barnes and that.
yeah,
Will Fox was still like an old school English winger, like quick, jinky, like feints, get to the line, cross it.
yeah.
And he was
That was it.
rapid.
He would show you in and go out, and he was gone, and then get the crossing.
Do you know what? It feels like in the 90s, players were a little bit more two-footed.
Uh,
Because I've seen Will Fox play off both feet. McManaman could use
oh
his
yeah,
left.
yeah. McManaman was stupidly gifted. We spoke, and then you had Ginola, who we spoke about earlier.
Mm, yeah,
Overmars, I seem to remember being decent off both sides as well.
yeah, yeah. And now a lot of people seem a lot more dedicated to one side. There's few players that genuinely are just as proficient off both feet.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I've not really touched upon Bex.
yeah.
I
This
mean,
is, I
what can you
think
say?
this is going to boil down to the two that we haven't actually spoke about fully yet.
Yeah, yeah.
That is Bex and McManaman, whose careers are similar-ish when you think about it. Like they started off in England at their boyhood clubs, got the move to Real Madrid. Then Bex bounced around a little bit more. McManaman came back to Man City early 2000s,
Mm.
but for different reasons, exceptional players.
Two totally different
Yeah,
right-sided players as well.
Beckham's passing ability is probably second to none that we've seen in the Prem. Like we've had some fantastic. You talk about De Bruyne's now and Xabi Alonso's and
Mm.
all of these players that could put it absolutely under sixpence. But Beckham's, he could do it in so many different ways. He could do it either with the instep with a bit of bend. He could put it with a bit of fade so it went the other way. He could drill it. He could loft it. He could put the ball wherever he wanted to put it, however he needed to get it there if there was an obstacle in the way. And it's
Mm.
very rare you find a player who can do that.
Mm. Something weird about Beckham. Um, so when I was younger, like he was like the first professional football player I think I saw in real life.
Yeah,
Because when my dad used to have a drink, he knew David Beckham's dad, so Beckham come up to the lodge a couple of times, and I was like, on the telly, he doesn't look that big compared to everyone else.
mm.
I saw him in real life, and like, it's fucking massive.
Yeah. It's deceptive how big most of these guys are.
Yeah, like when you say like Beckham, you look at him on the telly compared to all the other pros, and you're like, well, he doesn't seem overly physical. He doesn't seem larger than anyone. He doesn't seem quicker than anyone. You see him in real life, and like it's a bit of a unit.
Yeah, he's a bit of a lump. Bit of a lump.
And that was like in the 90s before, like obviously they looked after themselves, but it was less strict.
Yeah.
It's safe to say, without the medical advances they have now, and you still like fucking hell, he's tall.
Mm.
He's tall, he's broad, and he could actually put it on a 5p from like 70 yards away.
Yeah. I actually think this one boils down to how we want this team to look because we're at the minute we've got Vieira, Janino, Giggs free. If we put Manaman in as well, three of our midfielders are just going to get the ball down and run the defence every single time. If we put Bex in, we've got a little bit more of the passing range and creativity that way. So it all depends on which route we want to go down.
Well, what I would say in this instance, I think we both know one of the forwards is nailed on. So it's going to be Bex, but before we finish, Champions League at Celtic Park, Steve
That's
McManaman getting it in his own half and running the entire
how,
way down the right hand side,
yeah,
cutting in the left foot in the bottom corner. Fucking amazing goal. But
Didn't he
yeah,
score 2 goals in
but
the Champions League finals? So remember,
yeah,
I
he got
seem to
one.
remember him doing an upright scissor kick as well.
Yeah, yeah, he kind of got a scissor kick against Valencia,
Yeah,
and they won 2-0, I think that night, or 3-0 maybe.
yeah. Okay, I'll thinking about it the way you've just said it. I have to totally agree.
Yeah, because look, no spoilers, but one of them's obvious.
Yeah, one of them's going to have to go in. But before we get to that one, the strikers I have split. So I think there's. Let me just double check. Is there 8 in each category?
8. Oh
There's
my god.
8. We've got 8 strikers in each category. So we've got 16 strikers to pick
Oh,
from for the 2 positions.
so we're just
Yeah,
picking who goes next to Tony Cotti.
huh?
We just got to pick who goes next to Tony Cotti, yeah.
So I've split them up in a way that I'm calling one the main striker and one the second striker. Today
Sounds
they'd
good.
be called a 9 and a 10, but it wasn't really the way in the 90s. Uh,
You had a big man and you had a
no
little man.
disrespect to any of these players on here, because when you see the names, you'll understand how brilliant they all are. But let's have a look at this. This is the second striker list. We have Peter Beardsley, Matt Letizier, Stan Collymore, Eric Cantona, Dennis Bergkamp, Paolo Di Canio, Teddy Sheringham, and Gianfranco Zola. Whereas I reckon 7 of these 8 guys would probably be classed as 10s these days.
Mm.
They were just another striker back then, and they would normally drop in, play a little bit more football than the rest. All apart from Stan Collymore. I just thought I'd chuck him in there because he was he had his moments where he was just brilliant, and he was left foot, right foot, header, score goals everywhere he went, whether it was Forest, who weren't great at the time, or Liverpool, who were really good, and he scored important goals as well. So I thought he was worthy of a mention. If we were naming 16 strikers and we didn't mention him, I thought it'd be a little bit unfair on Stan Collymore.
Mm. Do you know what I saw like uh I'm like virtually insomniac, so I was doing some TikTok scrolling and it come up this thing with Merson,
Mm.
and he goes like, back in the 90s you didn't have mental problems. People just thought he was ungrateful for what he was and where he was. He was like, if it like people if there was the attitude around mental health that we have today, back in the 90s, he goes, he could have been a true great. Because
Mm.
he was like 6'1", 6'2", quick, right. Again, going back to the two-footed thing,
Yeah,
you'd barely be able to tell what foot he was, would you?
100%. If you just watched him in a finishing drill and you didn't know anything about him, and he did it varied, and 50% was on his left, 50% on his right, you'd get to the end of the drill and it'd be like, I don't know what foot this guy is. Genuinely can't tell.
Yeah. I mean, this is utterly ridiculous. These four players. It's funny that I'd say by and large, Di Canio's the weakest, by far the weakest out of these 8 players. Well,
Oh, I had to put him in there. Had to put him
yeah,
in there though, because what a player to have in the 10 if you can. And weirdly, I felt like I was being a little bit biased putting Peter Beardsley in there as well, because if you look at the caliber of some of the others, he doesn't quite reach that level.
yeah.
But
Sadly, in the
he's
90s,
linked up with players like Cole in that season when Cole got 40 something goals. He
yeah,
had to get a mention.
yeah. Funny enough, though, if we was doing the 80s team, he'd well be in there.
Mm.
Like,
Ooh, it'd be close still though, because
yeah,
then
yeah.
you would be pulling in your Gascoignes and a few others that would be in with a shout. So I think it would be close.
He was like Liverpool and Everton, though, when they were winning competitions. So
Mm.
it wasn't amazing. I mean, I've got to go through all of them. Bergkamp probably scored. Remember that hat trick at Filbert Street? That could be one of the best hat tricks ever seen.
Hat-trick of Filbert Street. He scored the only goal that I've clapped the time it was scored against Newcastle.
Oh, Dabby's ass.
Yeah,
The
the
Dabby's ass.
only time I've ever clapped a goal scored against Newcastle as it scored. So as it went in, didn't get up, do anything like that, but I just sat and clapped because it was just unbelievable.
With Bergkamp, I remember he got this goal against Southampton where he done like a double drag back and then sort of whipped it in the near post into the top corner. I remember that as a kid.
Is that the one where he barely moves his standing foot?
Yeah,
Sort of the player closes him down and he drags it, puts it out, and his standing foot barely goes anywhere, and he's done like three different things, and it's in the back of the net.
yeah, yeah. It was like like the double drag back where you pull it in with your right, like with your studs, and then you go your left, and you've gone random, like first in the old Marseille turn on FIFA.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was that he whipped it, and I remember trying that, like just trying to do the double drag back and then the whip for hours. Is oh god, what a happy innocent time that was for me. Just me and my ball in the field on a concrete wall with like a goal painted on it, just trying to do that. Oh yeah, amazing. And Zola, he kind of changed the game when he came over.
Oh yeah, yeah. Again, another player who sort of moved the needle a bit of talent and what you need from a player and what teams can actually do when you have a player who doesn't quite fit into a traditional system.
Like, wow, do you remember that goal in the FA Cup at Stamford Bridge against Man United where he danced it in and out? He danced it in and out and scored at the near post.
I don't actually remember that one, to be honest.
Yeah, it's back when that stand they didn't have a stand at one of the ends at Chelsea. So it was just a car park. He had like hoardings and a building site being used as a car park. And he dances in and out of Bruce and Pallister and puts it in at the near post. And I was like, jeez. And there was that back hill at the near post top corner.
The one from the corner?
From the corner, yeah.
Yeah. That's the one that's the one goal that sticks in my mind. So along with like Kanu's one against
Middlesbrough.
where he gets the hat trick and he cuts in and he's basically on the touchline and somehow.
That one.
I think it's against it's Chelsea Arsenal the game.
Yeah,
and he cuts in and he beats the man on the touchline and still puts it in the far top corner.
Yeah, the how he comes sliding out and he runs the keeper. Then yeah. Who haven't we talked? I mean, we've not even spoke about the Tiz. I mean,
we haven't spoken about the Tiz. Yeah, I think we need to get the Tiz out of the way because as much as he's one of the best players to watch if you're watching old Premier League highlights, he's unfortunately here for that reason rather than actually being in the team, I think.
yeah. I mean, again, it'd be remiss not to include him because, oh my god, that he could be the best YouTube player ever. If you know what I mean.
Oh well, no, that'd be Lee Trundle, but he never played in the Premier League. We couldn't get him in there.
Oh, can we do a show on Lee Trundle? Yeah, Letizia. Like, if you just do the top 10 Premier League goals, he could at least have 3 or 4 in if he wanted. If he was
and that's just goals against Newcastle, to be honest with you.
Fucking yeah, he got 2 of them in the same game.
Ridiculous.
Because he was mates with Tim Flowers, weren't he? And there was one at Blackburn where he goes in and out and for like 35 yards, and he just looked back and pointed at him. Oh my god,
that's an unbelievable goal. Unbelievable. I think that was actually in our intro at one point.
Yeah. There's the one against Man United where he dinks Schmeichel at the Dell. Oh, just so many.
Took a fantastic penalty as well.
Yeah, he's an absolute weirdo now. He's a proper conspiracy theorist. Yeah, not nice now, but jeez, he scored like truly unforgettable goals. I remember Xavi saying how much he liked him as a kid because he used to see like the goals from England. He used to love Matt Letizia goals. I'm like, fucking hell, Xavi.
To be fair, when you see some of the goals, how could any player not like watching those?
Yeah, ridiculous.
I think really we spoke about everybody properly apart from 3, and I think the next one who we should really tick off the list is Teddy Sheringham.
Yeah, it feels a bit harsh. Again, like he was still scoring goals into his like late 30s. I think it was like 38, 39 when he was at West Ham, and he's still scoring in the Prem.
Yeah, but he was one that never had pace, and his goals were always all about a little bit of movement, finding the little gap in the box, and when it drops, burying. And he made a career of it. He was brilliant at Tottenham. He went to Man United, obviously celebrating the goal in the Champions League there, won loads of stuff at Man United, and then bounced around a few more clubs after that, and still scored goals. fantastic, and his combination with Shearer for England at Euro '96 was something that basically made a whole summer for pretty much the whole nation that watches football over here, because they were different gear that tournament.
I always think how great he was in the air. I always thought he was really good in the air, and eternally that side foot onto Shearer against Holland.
Oh yeah,
Just I think about that so much. It's
the
ridiculous.
the awareness of it, and the coolness to not just have a lash, and he's just
And
like,
the
right, roll it.
and the weight of it, the
Mm.
technique to like open his foot out that much at the last second, and it's so perfect.
Yeah, special.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he still don't make. He's
Yeah,
still not my pick.
this is down to two, and it can only be down to two because they basically, both of them, completely changed the fortunes of their clubs when they moved over. Like a
Hmm.
lot of Man United gets put down to Alex Ferguson, but most players who were there when Eric Cantona joined would say he just completely changed the atmosphere of the club. And then the same for Bergkamp. Every single player I hear speak about Dennis Bergkamp from Arsenal talk about just how different he was to everybody else. He saw the game different. He played the game different, and he was just exceptional. He was one of them players that if I hadn't picked a team to support when he had come over, I'd probably support Arsenal.
Yeah, yeah. I actually bought his autobiography.
Mm.
I watched. The only time I saw him play live was in a pre-season friendly against Orient,
Okay.
and I was like, "Fuck it now."
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Do you know what? If I was picking a team on purely favourites, then I know it sounds weird, but I'd pick him ahead of Di Canio. Like
Okay.
in terms of football,
Yeah. Yeah.
just so and you not even mentioned his goal in for Holland against Argentina.
Oh my God! It's very similar to one of the ones you were talking about at
Yeah,
Filbert Street as well, wasn't it?
yeah. I swear we was on a France trip when that was scored. We would have been on
98.
a trip to
So
France at school.
might have been potentially, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember trying to look at it outside a bar, and I think it was the France trip where we all bought the little yellow mini Nike footballs.
Yeah. So that would have been
Mate, I can't.
must have been year eight. So yeah, you're
No,
probably right. To be fair, that would
yeah,
have been around that time, and it was a summer trip as well. It wasn't. It
yeah,
was like proper because my birthday was on the trip, so that would have been early July.
yeah, yeah. All of this said, and my love for Bergkamp, um, I'd still probably go with King Eric.
I'm so torn, but because of how transformative he was, and everything we've said about all of these players, kind of goes for Eric Cantona as well. Every positive you can say about every other player on this screen right now, you can
Mm.
say about Eric Cantona, whether it's the special goals he scored, like the one where he dinks the keeper, I think it's against Leeds, and just stands there and takes the applause. He
Oh,
scored
with the
key
collar
goals,
up.
collar up, yeah. He scored key
Yeah,
goals. He went on a run where he scored like 7 goals in 7 games, and Man United won 6 of them games by 1 goal, and they went on to win the league in like 95 or 96 or something like that. He did a bit of everything. And as much as he is in the second striker bracket, a big chunk of his time at Man United, he was the main guy. He was the front man. He was the number 9. But
mm.
the way he plays just suits potentially being a second striker a little bit more.
Oh, do you know what I just thought of? The goal against Arsenal where he brings it down on his chest and he just smashes it.
Right.
You know when
Yeah.
people used to proper lace footballs because that's the
Mm.
only way you could hit a mite of football, and it proper dips. Everything was a dipper in the 90s, weren't it?
Yeah.
Nothing sort of moved in the air. Everything was either blasted like a cannon or it dipped.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, Seaman had no chance. Oh my
Mm.
god, he was amazing, wasn't he?
Yeah. And
And
on
also,
top of that, City go on about their four-peat. The only reason Man United didn't do a four-peat back then was because Eric Cantona kicked someone in the face against Crystal Palace one time and was banned for most of the season.
Yeah.
And they won it the 2 seasons before, and they won it the season he came back after that ban as well.
Like the most infamous incident of the 90s.
Yeah, 100%. So I think we've kind of agreed there without saying it out loud. It's kind of got to be Eric, isn't it?
I'm not going to get any sleep tonight because I'm going to be YouTubing a
Oh, mate,
lot.
I haven't been sleeping properly at all recently. I've got to try and sleep tonight. So
I don't know. Well, in that case, I'm not going to have a very productive day at work because I'm just going to be YouTubing all these players.
right, so we are now on to what we're calling the main striker, and this is quite a list, by the way. So we have now got Andy Cole, Jurgen Klinsmann, Dwight York, Alan Shearer, Chris Sutton, Les Ferdinand, Ian Wright, and Robbie Fowler. What a selection of strikers, by the way.
Oh God, mate, I feel emotional just looking at it.
By the way, this is one era of the Premier League. And we've just picked out 16 strikers. There is no way that in 25 years' time or 30 years' time, people are going to look back at this era and be able to pick out 16 ridiculously good strikers from
Oh,
the
what? As in the
10 years.
era
Yeah, from this
we're
era
in
we're
now?
in now.
The era
There's
we're in
no
now.
way.
No chance.
Because these are all proper top level players. It's not like we're just bigging them up for nostalgia. They were proper top draw players.
Yeah, like I don't think when we've got our bloody free Oyster cards as a pensioner, mate, we ain't going to be banging on about Ollie Watkins.
No, exactly. Like the best, say you name the best 10 strikers in the league now, 7 or 8 of them are going to be like that we talked about, but you won't go back and go, oh, what a player he was.
All of these players here hit 20 goals regularly.
Yeah, pretty much every season. Pretty much every
Well,
season. And they were
more or
annoyed
less.
at a bad season when they didn't.
Yeah, all 20. Like, it's just, well, I suppose we better start going through them. You start from top left and I'll start bottom right, yeah? Go on, Coley's your one to talk about, mate.
Yeah, Andy Cole, what a player. I think Andy Cole, as good as he is, or as good as he was, should I say, is still probably one of the most underrated frontmen that the Premier League's ever seen. Because you hear these conversations about the best striker the Premier scene, and most times people don't mention Andy Cole. But I might be ever so slightly off with where he is on the all-time list. I think he's either second or third on the all-time list. And he only ever scored one penalty. He only ever took one penalty as well, by the way. He wasn't horrible at them. He took one, scored one. And all of his other goals were from open play. Like,
Yeah.
for Newcastle, he was a joke. He got something. I think he's still our second or third top Premier League goal scorer. Might still be second. And he only played for us for 2 seasons, maybe 2.5 seasons. And he got something like 54 goals or 53 goals or something stupid like that. He was exceptional. And then there was the thing going around that potentially he needs 5 chances to score 1 goal, which was a complete myth. He was one of the ultimate bagsmen that the Premier League has ever seen. Just ridiculous. He had every finish in the book as well, by the way.
I think he got that grief when he went to Man United because he wasn't. I suppose he set such a record at Newcastle. Was expected to do that or more at Man United.
Yeah.
And it didn't. At the start, it didn't quite go like that. But yeah, like again, deceptively quick as well.
Mm-hmm.
And just so cold in front of goal. I think about all of these strikers. They're all cold strikers. Like there was never, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to smash it.
Yeah. It was either they picked their finish and it was going to be something cute and delicate or whatever, or it was laces. Pick a spot, laces.
Yeah, there was never anything. Or and when they laced it, it wasn't like they were just thumping it for thumping its sake. There's no idea that um like in there, that millisecond calculation you do, like, oh, should I
Yeah.
place it or should I just hit it true? It wasn't just thrashing at the ball hoping it goes in. They just hit it true, knowing
Yeah,
that it was
it
too
was always pick a corner. It was always little look up, right, keeper's left, laces through it, keeper's left.
high. Um, yeah, so if you start with Coley, I'm going to start Fowler, like when he came onto the scene. So that would have been just as I was starting to watch football a lot. Coming into that Liverpool team, so that it was him, Rush, Barnes, McManaman, just unreal. Like such a sweet left foot, but again, he'd get every type of goal.
Yeah.
Long distance, so many tap-ins, headers. Like I suppose he was kind of infamous for them. Like there was the games with Newcastle in the 90s, but there was like the quickest hat trick in the Prem
Quickest
against
hat trick
Arsenal.
against Arsenal, the 5 minute hat trick, and it was within the first 5 minutes of the game as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember watching that on teletext,
Do you know what?
and we
For
thought it
some,
was a
I don't know.
glitch. It had
That's
literally, I think the game literally only came round 4 times, and it was like, what? How? Huh? What's what?
Had you just finished playing Bamboozle as well on teletext?
You know what? I remember exactly where I was. There was brothers called Donald and David who were,
Mm.
I think they were Chinese. They were either Chinese or Korean, and we used to go around there at the weekend because they lived just by where Green School is. So we'd go around there. We'd play football climb into Green School, play football in there, and we'd go back, grab a bite to eat, go back to theirs. We'd watch Guyver or some other kind of manga, and then we'd watch teletext.
Why is you watching manga at like 10, 11, mate?
Because that's what I was with. They were my brother's friends, so they're
Oh,
like
fair enough. Oh,
five,
fair enough.
6 years older. So
Oh, fair enough. Makes sense. Yeah, I remember for that hat trick specifically, I was going down to like stay at my granddad's
yeah,
for a week or something like that. And I don't know, like a cousin or something, or if I barely ever saw was an Arsenal supporter, and I got in the car just as he scored a hat trick. I'm like, and he had his Arsenal shirt on. Like, you'll get banged. Yeah, Robbie Fowler was amazing, and like Owen went on to do really well for him, but like he's nothing in their eyes compared to Fowler.
no, what a player! And
So
we've just
natural.
spoken about two English players who will probably be top 10 Premier League strikers ever, who barely got any England caps.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, we've got 4 on this list who didn't get many England caps that are all exceptional strikers.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, Dwight never declared for England, did he, mate? Well, I know how much we both like the next two on the bottom in Ferdinand and Moratti.
Oh my God, yes. To Sir Les Ferdinand. Like, I've never seen a man jump and stay in the air and just hover. Like, I've never seen anybody do it. Like, and he did it on such a consistent basis, cross into the box, and he'd jump as the ball's crossed, and he'd head it, and he'd hit the back of the net, and he'd still not hit the floor. And it was like, how are you still in the air? What is going on?
He was doing it about 15 years before Cristiano Ronaldo would do it.
Yeah,
Like, he copied Les Ferdinand. He
yeah,
wishes he could jump like Les Ferdinand.
yeah, unbelievable player, fantastic. Again, another one that played for many clubs, and I think's probably loved at most of the clubs he played for because he did just score goals, and he was quite a likable character as well. We was lucky enough to have both Shearer and Ferdinand next to each other for a season, so yeah, it was some. We've had some good strikers over the years, but yeah, what a player! What a player! Again, another one that would come into this era and just score a bag load of goals.
I always... I remember him getting one against Man United at St James's, just like brutally thumped it. Like just the power that he'd put into it. And we just talk about his Newcastle ones. Obviously, when I started at QPR,
QPR, yeah.
was great for them when they came up.
Yeah. What a player. What a player. And the man alongside him is, I'm going to say this again, he's the other reason I nearly supported Arsenal. I had Ian Wright t-shirts as a kid just because of stuff like he's doing in the picture. Like when he scored goals, his celebrations just made you know that he loved the game of football. And that everything was about Saturday afternoon trying to score the goal. And when it hit the back of the net, it was just off the cuff. And he was just doing whatever his body felt like doing at the time. And yeah, his even now, his enthusiasm for everything, when you see him on podcasts and anything, he's just such an infectious personality. And he's always come across like that. But then he did also have that little bit of a nasty prick about him as well, where defenders will talk of how he used to dig them. He used to keep his fingernails long so he could pinch them and pull their hairs and stuff like that. So, yeah, he wasn't just the joker. He had the serious side to him as well.
Well, he was like working on he was a brickie, weren't he?
Yeah.
Before he signed up for Palace.
Bricky or plasterer? Can't remember if
Or
he was
plasterer.
Bricky or one of the two.
Yeah, and then getting to Palace, then getting his move to Arsenal.
Right, it was right and bright, wasn't it, at Palace?
Yeah. And what was I going to say? All kinds of goals. Like, again, another player. Right
I actually think,
running onto it.
I think he's the only one on this list that literally had every finish on both feet.
He was a proper, like, that's an art of goal scoring. It's just, yeah, he had a bit, I think, he definitely, as you say, when we mentioned it earlier on, the one where he went in on Schmeichel and they burst the football. Like, yeah. And I always remember him breaking Cliff Baston's record and having the Nike vest.
Oh, yeah, just did it.
179, just done it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, great player. What a character as well.
I suppose we'll wrap up 3 of the next 4 pretty quickly.
Yeah. Again, Sutton's there, purely Premier League, Blackburn. Fantastic.
I don't know, got goals.
He scored a lot of goals. He scored a lot of goals, but I don't think without that, I don't think he would have made the list.
If he did Scottish Premier, he would have done quite well.
Oh yeah,
because after he left Chelsea, he got a lot of goals for Celtic.
Yeah.
Jurgen Klinsmann, kind of again big money foreign signing. Everyone was a bit like a World Cup winner coming to England. I mean, it was a shame with them, but well, everyone started doing that celebration when you was a kid, didn't they?
Yeah,
like the overhead kick.
Dive.
Yeah, the overhead kick was like kind of scissory kick thing against Sheffield Wednesday on his debut, or was it a diving header?
No, I think the overhead kick came first.
Yeah.
Well, scissor kick, because it was spit to the side, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, he is an amazing striker.
Yeah, he was fantastic player. Shame he played for Tottenham, to be fair, but yeah, what a player.
Yeah, bit of a prick now, but you know, I'm sure that goes for a couple we've spoken about tonight.
Yeah.
Dwight York, oh man. I mean, before we even get into his United stuff, he was so good at Villa.
Yeah.
Him and Savo Milosevic.
Unbelievably good player. Like, I vaguely remember, so I don't remember much of his Villa time, but I just always remembered seeing his name pop up on teletext, always scoring goals. Yeah, and then rightfully he got moved to United and paired up with Andy Cole, and they just developed a move. These two, weird little fact, they didn't like each other.
Yeah.
They didn't speak on the pitch or off the pitch. They didn't speak.
Cole and Sheringham hated each other as well, didn't they?
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like Andy Cole because he was just cold. He wasn't just cold in front of goal. He was just cold throughout. That's just how he was. It was his job. He was turning up to do his job, and he didn't care about anything else. But to develop a sort of telepathy with someone that you don't like and you don't speak to on and off the pitch, to score the kind of goals where the amount of times they did it as well, where one of them dummies it, spins off, the other one lays it back into the path, and then it's buried. Like to develop that without having to speak to someone is just crazy. It's crazy levels of ability.
And whereas Wrighty, sometimes he'd get his back up and he'd be on one. Dwight York always smiled whilst playing.
Constantly with a smile on his face.
You always have that beaming smile, don't you?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And again, some I always used to just remember him a lot for opening his foot out finishes, like like an instep curling finish. Just always opened his foot out, like his hips and his foot, and just it was so good.
Right, and then that leaves us with one man, and it's kind of got to be that man, because like we did with Cantona, we've gone through all of the other players, and everything we've kind of said about them, you couldn't say about Alan Shearer. Like, he might not have the trophies of a York or a Cole, but he won the Premier League at Blackburn. He's the Premier League's highest ever goal scorer. He scored over 100 goals for 100 Premier League goals for 2 different Premier League clubs. And he had, again, pretty much every finish in the book. Maybe not as many on his left than he did on his right, but he had every finish in the book on the right, whether it was a smash, he had dinks, he'd score from 30 yards, he'd score tap-ins. There was one against Villa where Rob Lee turns out, clips it across, and he just side foots it back across goal into the far top goal scorer. I mean, not far top goal scorer, far top corner.
That was against Schmeichel.
Oh, was it Schmeichel goal?
I think so.
Oh wow! And I remembered it was Villa. I just didn't remember he was in goal. Just unbelievable. And any ball into the box, if you want someone to attack a header, right? As much as Les Ferdinand used to hang in the air for 40 seconds, I don't think you'd want anyone else other than Shearer attacking it. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. My main couple of things that I think about Shearer, top goal scorer in the Prem. That discounts the goals he scored at Blackburn before Southampton before he got into the Premier League, which everyone loves banging on about. Oh, like, oh yeah, Kane would have caught him. I was like, we can't talk about Shearer's goals before the Premier League started.
Pretty sure he's got about another 40 goals. That isn't because he wasn't playing in the top division. It's just because it was before the Premier League existed. So he was still playing in the top division, scoring goals. It's just the Premier League didn't even exist, and everybody ignores them goals, which is a joke, really.
Yeah, it's almost not fair, and he's still going to be the highest.
He's still got 263, whatever it is, something like that.
Yeah. And the second thing is, when he was at Blackburn in the early years of the Premier League, he was like a sort of off the shoulder of the last man, quick player. Look for the ball through, run on and finish. He had 2, essentially what used to be back then career-ending injuries.
Yeah, 3.
Both of his, 3. Both of his knees went. And did he have a hernia or was it a groin thing?
Both his knees. The hernia wasn't one of the major ones. It was both his knees and an ankle, which were massive. Yeah. And he missed. I reckon he missed a season and a half worth of football through them injuries.
And because of them injuries, he had to totally change his game to become more of a target man. And don't get me wrong, he was a nasty bastard.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Even for the 90s, he would put it about. But to change your game entirely and then score just as many, if not more goals than you ever did, was just unreal.
Yeah. And the last thing I'd like to add on it, I would say, so he joined us 96. So after Euro 96, he joined Newcastle, and he was there all the way through, and I think he probably retired late 2000s. For about 8 or 9 years of that, he was playing in a team that was finishing 10th, 9th, 13th, places like this, and he's still the Premier League's top goal scorer. He wasn't playing in the best team in the league. He did at Blackburn, yeah, they were great for a couple of years. Newcastle were great for a couple of years. But I would say he was playing in a top four-ish team for 6, maybe 7 of the 20 odd years he played in the Premier League. And he's still scored that many goals.
I don't think we'll see the like again.
No.
Like to compare him, like there's just not. I don't think there's another forward like him in modern football. I'm like the closest you'd get is kind of Haalandish, but there's no way he's a remotely on the same level finisher as Alan Shearer.
Oh, no. I don't think he is at all either, to be honest. And everything's geared up for Haaland to be Haaland, whereas Shearer had to scrap for a lot of what have we got.
Yeah, unreal. When we was making the team, like the only two nailed on for me were Vieira and Shearer when I was writing them down earlier on.
Yeah.
Just like world level at the time, world level footballer. Yeah. Trying to again, he's another one. I think me and you were in a pub once, and he's like best 100 goals came on or something. Like that.
Yeah. What's that pub by?
In Islington.
It's next to Highbury and Islington Station, isn't it?
Yeah, the famous cock.
Yeah, we were in there. We were just about to leave as well.
Yeah.
And then all of that came on, and then Righties came on, and all of a sudden it was like 4 hours earlier, 4 hours later.
Yeah, and we was in a right mess. But even now, you always see another goal. You're like, I don't remember that. That's unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a
Right.
player.
The pictures are a lot smaller, but here's our team. We've gone through everybody, and we've ended up with Pete Schmeichel in goal, your two centre-backs of Sol Campbell and Tony Adams, Dennis Irwin at left-back, Lee Dixon at right-back, Juninho and Patrick Vieira in centre midfield, with Ryan Giggs on the left, David Beckham on the right, Cantona just off Alan Shearer up top. I think everybody would agree that's a pretty special side. And as much as we tried to keep the Man United players to a minimum, I feel like the 5 that we've put in are very much justified.
I mean, they were dominant of the 90s.
Yeah, and it would have been a very sort of rogue shout for us to take any of them guys out and put someone else in. So we did our best to keep them low, but you can't ignore some players.
I tell you what, and also, maybe on another show, we'll have to do a bench because out of all of them players, there's going to be a hell of a lot of suspensions. There's a lot of bookings going on in that pitch.
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%.
Other than Giggs and Juninho, do you reckon that shows on us being particularly fiery players?
No, you just know you've got to have a bit of bite in you. Or maybe it just shows that in the 90s you had to have a bit more bite about you. To not get swallowed up in the league, you just had to have it.
Yeah. Do you know what? What an amazing team. And I like we've got a little flitter of fancy in Juninho because he's probably like he'd get brushed over.
Yeah.
We've just got that little sprinkling of Samba magic.
A little bit of magic in the middle there. You've got to have it. You've got to have some. You've got to have a maverick somewhere. If Juninho didn't go in, I would have fought a lot harder for Ginola, just to have that little sprinkling of magic somewhere. But that said, those that have popped in, who have joined and watched, thank you very much. Those that are watching back, I'm going to do it again. Like, share, subscribe. We're going to be doing more things like this, little niche things where we can talk about just things that me and Stocky love about football in general, whether it be games, boots, anything football related. If we come up with a topic of discussion, it will be on the Sunday session. If you're looking for normal football chat, that will be on the Parliament, where we'll be getting guests on and talking about all things Premier League. But, Stocky, anything else to add?
I hope they hurry up and sort out time travel so I can go back and just watch Match of the Day through the 90s again.
I'm sure you can get that on the iPlayer somehow, mate.
Oh, God, I'm feeling extremely nostalgic. I mean, it doesn't take much for me to feel old, but oh, God, what a
Yeah,
special time for football.
yeah, 100%. What an
And it
era.
was so much more innocent then.
Mm, yeah, I totally agree. Didn't have to worry about anything else other than when the next game was rolling up.
Yeah,
Right, so it's been a pleasure as always, mate. Thank you for
absolutely.
everybody that's watched, and you can catch us tomorrow evening on Spurs Kings TV, the Monday pitch, where we'll be catching up on everything Premier League this weekend, and as everybody loves it, the VAR court, where we talk about different VAR decisions throughout the weekend. But everybody who's been on, thank you very much, and good night.